I spent over a month fully restoring a pair of old leather-wrapped glasses. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. So this is my first time doing a project like this. By now, I just working on the front side of the frame. It was entirely blue. So for the back side, I pick up a soft, eco-friendly, warm ivory leather. According to my first instinct in choosing this leather was to create some contrast. Besides that, the material also felt more skin-friendly. So based on my intuition, this felt like the perfect leather. Like I've done before, I scaled the leather to 0.5mm. But unlike the front side, this one was started to shrink and curl as soon as I scaled it. It was too weird that I had no idea of how to move on. My only thought was I need to flatten it, so it won't be able to cut properly. So I came idea to keep the leather flat. I just applied a little piece of the tape bit by bit to fix the edges in place. And then applied the same non-stretch, low-tech tapes piece by piece across the entire surface. That tape had to stay on throughout the entire process. No peeling until the very end. If you ever run into the same problem, just remember this works. Once the leather was fully flattened, I traced the backside frame template onto it. This served two purposes. Number one, I defined the area where the glue would go. And more importantly, the second is I marked the exact position for attachment. Now, just a quick note here, the backside template is different from the front one. At first, I used the wrong method, and the templates ended up wrapped. So I changed my approach and made a new one. And this one is turned out precise and consistent. So if you're unsure of the method of how to make accurate template like this, I've already uploaded a full video on that. Please feel free to check it out. I hope it helps. So let's back to the main process. The next was the gluing step. Just like before, I started by thinning the glue to get a smoother, more even coat. The leather needed to be glued more than once. The first layer had to soak into the leather before I applied the second one. I paid close attention to this part because the reason I started this whole restoration was due to the original glue failing. So for me, making sure the new band holds firmly, that's the part I care about most. Okay, I had already flattened the leather, traced the same template the method I used for the front onto the backside, and applied the glue, but I was still nervous. What if the leather shrank again and ruined everything? So before cutting, I held the template over it once more, just to make sure the size was still right. Cutting turned out to be harder than I expected. The leather was too soft. So after cutting each section, I immediately taped it down to hold it in place. Then continued with the rest. Finally, once everything matched, I started preparing to glue the lining onto the frame. And here's the one key detail. I had to begin the alignment from the hinge area because I had left a specific opening there. That opening was my anchor point. It had to be exact. The most error-prone part was the nose bridge. I have left a bit of extra leather there, so I temporarily taped the lining onto the frame, then carefully marked where the two sides should meet. The curve of the nose bridge is complex, multiple arcs, different directions. After sketching the seam line, I had to make a precise cut to shape the curve correctly. If you look closely, the cut line starts from the deepest point of the bridge. Only once I confirmed that the lower arc was correct, I could trust that the top arc would follow. I used a pen to mark both ends of the curve, and only then, I felt safe to move on and start applying glue onto the frame. After applying glue, I still anchored the leather at a hinge position like before. So first, I decided to start from the area near the nose bridge. From there, I began pressing down. starting at the top edge of the bridge. Because there was a clean 90-degree angle, easy to locate and align. Even though I already had plenty of experience with glue, I'd failed so many times in the past that I still didn't trust myself. Here is another video of how I improved the gluing method. Please check it out, it helps. So I tested the glue strength first, just to make sure it was holding properly. Then came to the hardest part, actually gluing the bridge area. This section has been precisely to match the edge of the blue leather wrapping from the front, but it was nearly impossible to press with my fingers. There was no room. I had to rely on smooth tools to press everything down. To be honest, I wasn't particular about tool itself. Only one rule I remembered is, it must not damage the leather. The material's elasticity made things tricky. While pressing one area, the leather would bounce or shift. So I had to constantly put it back into place. That's when I started to realize this leather, as beautiful as it was, simply wasn't right for this job. But I had already come this far. If I stop it now, everything would be wasted. So I continued, making sure all the edges connected properly, pressing section down one by one, always checking the relationship between one area to the next. Only once everything looked aligned, I started applying more pressure and covering large area to fully secure the bound. Once the deepest part of the nose bridge was down, I moved on to the large section on the right side of the frame. Here's something worth noticing. I couldn't glue the leather inside of the lens grooves right away, so you will see me put it back after accidentally stuck. Once the outer edge was secured, then I will do the groove side. And now the leather reveals the exact shape of the frame. I used a sharper tool to press the leather fully into the groove. This part of the process took in a lot of time, mainly because I was never fully sure if the leather was bonding well with the frame. Finally, I created a mark as my only cutting reference. Then I moved on to the bridge area again and started applying glue. But there I had to do things a little differently. I glued it first because I couldn't predict exactly where the seam would land. And this leather was so elastic that if I cut it first and it shrank later, the whole piece would be ruined. I pushed all the axes outward, forcing any wrinkles to move beyond the cutting zone. Only when that was done, I peeled off the tape and prepared for the final inspection. And I have to say, this leather looked stunning. The soft, fuzzy texture and the warm ivory color created a strong contrast against the blue front side. And here's the truth. If I messed up the cut, the entire piece would be a failure. So let me give you some advice. Always change to a new blade before cutting. Make sure the blade is vertical. But it's hard to describe the right amount of force. You have to press hard enough to cut cleanly, but not so hard that you scratch the lens underneath. Too soft and the leather won't separate, but too strong, the lens is broken. It's such a contradictory feeling. Before I even finished the cut, I paused and checked the result. I wanted to see if the force I used was enough. And the moment the blade finally separated the leather, I was thrilled. Right after that, I inspected the lens surface carefully. No scratches, the glue held, the tension was right. That tiny success felt amazing. Once I confirmed that everything was fine, I kept cutting. But because the leather was so stretchy, the original reference line had already started to blur. I had to press it down with a tool while cutting, step by step. Eventually, I finished the full cut, and to this day, I still remember how it felt. Mentally exhausting. With the lens area down, I moved on to the final step, trimming the excess leather around the nose bridge. There's a detail I want to share here. This area doesn't have a proper cutting surface underneath because of the frame's 3D shape, so I had to work near the corner of the cutting mat. I thought I could make this cut from the one direction, but I was wrong. I had to rotate the whole piece just to reach the other angle. And of course, using only a blade wasn't enough. I had to switch to scissors. Yes, they solved the cutting problem, but also brought a new one I couldn't fix. Every time I snipped, I couldn't match the exact spot from the last cut. That left tiny imperfections along the edge. They were minor, but they bothered me. And the root of the issue is, the leather was too soft, too elastic. Not only this, a day later, the real problem started to show. The surface of the leather began to darken. Glue stains appeared everywhere. Looking back, I realized what had happened. I had scraped the leather too thin. The glue was heavily diluted, so it seeped deep into the material. This leather didn't have any protective coating. It was light colored, it was fuzzy, it soaked up everything. That's why the backside of the frame didn't turn out as well as the front. This whole experience taught me something important. Even a really high quality leather can become a raw material when it meets the wrong design. And that's exactly what happened here. A beautiful leather met a bad idea. If I ever do this again, I will absolutely not choose this kind of material. I regret it deeply. So here's my honest advice for anyone working with leather. Try not to use light colored leather for detailed handmade projects. It's too easy to mess things up. The next video will be the final chapter of the restorations. I'll show you how I wrap the temples. I had to do it twice, and the failure made me have more experiences to share to you. So if you want to see more, I'll see you there. Taking care. See ya.